Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the Blank Space podcast. Today, we are lucky enough to have Adam Chambers with us. Now, Adam Chambers is an American actor, director, writer, musician, and producer. Oh my God, so much stuff. With an impressive resume in television, film, theatre, and music. His television credits include roles on Be Positive, You, love that show, Dollface, SWAT, American Horror Story, NCIS Los Angeles, Good Luck Charlie, and ER. I'm so glad I didn't try to do that in one breath. Film appearances include Pretty Broken, The Garlic Incident, Night of the Living Dead Reanimation, Bell vs. Monster, Cupid, Redemption, and The Genesis Code. Chambers is also the founding member and artistic director of Loft Ensemble Theatre in Los Angeles. She has directed over 100 plays and produced nearly 100 original works. In addition to his work on stage, he is a dedicated acting instructor at the USC School of Dramatic Arts, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and the Orange County School of the Arts. His leadership has been recognized by the state of California. He's a San Diego native and graduate of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and he performs across the country with his musical comedy duo, The Show, with Adam and Sean. Woo! How many hours are in your day, Adam? Because you do a lot of stuff.
It does get a little busy. It's funny. I don't think I've ever heard anybody read it all out loud. So it is funny to hear it all out loud like that.
Are you impressed with yourself? You should be.
I guess. I don't know.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a new thing for us, so we're going to swim through this together.
Cool. I'm excited.
My first question. We know that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. And yet we all choose to exist in this world of theatre where we do the same thing over and over and still expect to be able to pay our bills easily. And that rarely, if ever, happens. Why do you love this so much?
You know, it's funny. I feel like that answer's certainly changed a lot. I think one of the things that I always hit on, whenever I'm teaching, I think you get a lot of different perspectives when you teach young people, especially young artists, because you see them in the beginning and you see them when they first are like, I moved to LA. And I ask this question to all of them, why did they choose this? And I'd say probably about 95% of their answers are about themselves. It's like me, I choose this because it's what I like, it's what I do, it's what I love, it's what I need, and I describe that as sort of like the drug addict in all of us that initially got us all hooked on this thing. When you're younger, high school, junior high, whenever you start acting, something hooked you, right? You performed somewhere, you did a thing, and then you got that feeling and you were like, uh-oh, and then you kept doing it. And I think that's kind of where the insanity starts. But then you start realizing that a lot of people end up quitting this because their reasons for doing this stay the same, which is for themselves. And I really do see that the people that I think do this long term, their reasons for why they do this are really about other people. And as cheesy as that sounds, I really think that's a big part of it. Is we do this to tell stories for other people. We do this for hopefully inspiring somebody. We do this for hopefully just moving somebody's emotional meter. We do this for hoping that it gives some kind of hope or whatever, or just as simple as like we were just talking about with our kids, as simple as we just hope somebody laughs. Could just be a fart joke that just the world needed to hear. And so I think that you when you can really get past that initial for me, and you really do kind of become of service, I think that's where you can get out of that insanity, if that makes sense.
Well, is there an occurrence in which someone has told you how much what you did means to them?
It's very overwhelming sometimes, if I'm being honest. I work at the American Academy and I went there, so that that's a good example. But I probably peak somewhere in, whether I'm doing guest speaking somewhere or something, but it's not uncommon for me in a year interact with over 1,000 actors or something like that. And the American Academy is closing, and so I just finished my last day there recently, and I got all these letters from people all these cards and things. So it can be overwhelming to even kind of sit and think about, because I remember when Kobe Bryant died,
Mm.
and I remember that day very much because I was a big Kobe Bryant was my like idol as a human. He was this inspiration, I think, that kind of wired me differently a little bit in my own way, coming from sports, but also just like when he became LA and I moved to LA, like they were around the same time. And I remember him dying, and I had a rehearsal that day. And I remember being like, when I got there, my director was like, "Why are you here? I would assume you would just like," and I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, this would be so silly for me to like not come here just because he died." But also like the whole point of his mentality and everything like that was this whole thing. But I remember going home that day, and I remember this is so weird, but I remember like going to the bathroom, taking a shower, and I remember getting very overwhelmed, and like I remember crying. I was like, why am I crying? Like I never met this person. Like what is happening? And I got out, and my phone had blown up a bunch, and I had all these messages from people and students that were like, "Hey, I just know, just you're Kobe for me."
Mm.
And I was like, ugh. And so it was like they knew how much that person meant to me, but like I'm getting choked up even thinking about it. But like, yeah, I mean, it can be sometimes pretty overwhelming because you do it to help, but you're not necessarily always realizing the impact that it's having.
Mhm.
I wish I could say sometimes always positively, but you know, sometimes you don't even know necessarily. Sometimes when you say something that maybe affects somebody negatively, um,
Yeah, I mean, we all do that, and
yeah,
you
you just
can't, you can't please everyone. You can't say
sure,
things that are going to, you know, resonate with everybody. That's one of the difficulties of not only being human, but specifically being a teacher. It's
yeah,
very difficult. I
yeah.
taught for a year in a public school, and I was like, okay, that's it for me.
That's in it. Yeah,
I
it's
don't
very
have that gene.
yeah. I've done it for a really long time, and I think that's like where the hard part comes in. I've taught for like, and you could really say that even from the beginning of Loft, I feel like in a lot of ways I've always been like sort of the teacher there,
Hmm.
but I've definitely been teaching for like 20 years, you know, and so there's been a lot of that. But then like you do kind of go like, I don't necessarily always necessarily realize the impact that it's actually having on people.
Hmm. What has changed for you from the beginning of when you were teaching to now? Is there something that you have learned to that works that you didn't think would work, or something that you really thought, oh, this is how I'm going to go at it, that you've had to leave behind?
Well, so there's two, like, I feel like I have two different careers of teaching. I taught preschool to kids with special needs for almost 10 years. And that's a very different, like
Yeah.
16 months to not 3 years old. So it was like preschool. And I did that for almost 10 years. So that's a very different thing. But then I've taught like adults acting, I'll call it 15, you know, somewhere in that, you know, 12, 13, 14, 15, 14 years. I think when I first started, I was very young, but I think I really wanted everyone to like me.
Mm.
And so like I I taught, but I also really wanted to be like, let's be honest, let's be transparent with people. Um, when I was younger, though, first started teaching, I was like, I'm gonna get them all to like me. I'm just gonna get them with my personality, and I'll like that. And so I'll spend a lot of time on everybody. But now it's kind of like, oh no, not that one. Nope, not
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. No, red flag, red flag.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that, I mean, because we also have to think about our own well-being and sanity, honestly. And
yeah.
also, you spend too much time on someone like that, and it can affect everybody else, that one bad apple sort of
Absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely. I see that a lot. You know what I mean? I definitely see that a lot. And I can see how it can also like it can affect me at home. It can affect my life. And you know,
Hmm.
and it's I think one of the, you know, again, sort of the definition of insanity, but sort of the blessings and curses of being a teacher is you give a lot to a lot of other people. And then
Yeah.
you go like, wait, how much do I have left for the people that are actually like in my life? Like
Yeah.
in my actual
Yeah.
life, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we both have kids, and I know that my kid, I'm trying to, I have not learned the lesson yet myself, but I'm still trying to teach him, like, listen, don't let that person live in your head for free. Don't bring them home with you. Like, I'm really trying to instill that in him because we all know we take the negative, we leave the 20 positive things that happened that day and bring that one negative thing along with us, and what that
Yeah.
one thing that one person said.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that my kid has taught me so much about who I want to be when I'm interacting with other people. What have you learned throughout teaching and being a father that has made you pivot a little bit insofar as that?
It's funny if people meet my kid. I'm sure maybe yours is similar, but when people meet my kid, they go like, "Oh, that's definitely your kid," and she's very outspoken and very opinionated, but she's also very like no bullshit. She's like, and so she will like if I have something going on, it's be so simple. I'll be like, oh yeah, there's just like someone's, at my work, somebody, there's somebody, and she'll literally just look at me and be like, don't let them, and she'll just say it like so like
Yes.
bluntly, and she's just like, and I'm like, you're right, and she's like, I mean, that's what you would say, and I was like, God, that's so true. But she's that. I think that that's like big part of it is like she said the other day. Because I was finishing my job, and I had like a day after I'd finished this very long process of this creative process, and it was very difficult, this process. And so I had a day after it was over, and I was really sort of decompressing, and I had a lot of phone calls to still make, and I was still kind of wrapping up loose ends on it. And I was also supposed to hang out with her, but I wasn't doing a great job of that. And so like realistically, I probably should have put that day to hang out with her the day after, right? Like realistically. And so like we went to the beach, but I was still like dealing with a lot of stuff. And we come home, my wife's like, "How was your day with your dad?" And she was like, "It sucked." She's like, "Why?" And she's like, "He was on his phone all day." And I got so heartbroken. I got like very like I started like tearing up because I felt so bad. She looks at me, she's like, she goes, "What's wrong with your face?" And I go, "What?" She goes, "Ew, are you crying?" She's like, "Ew, are you crying?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah," but she goes, "Can you stop, please?" I was like, "Dude, sorry, I'll make it up to you." She goes, "I know you'll make it up to me." I mean, that's just kind of like how she sort of is, and it brings a lot of levity to it. It also
Mhm.
kind of reminds you that it's not that serious.
Well, I love the fact that you are allowing her to be who she is too. I think that that's something I try really hard with my kid, and I feel like maybe our generation is doing a better job at that because it's
Yeah,
like we have these ideas of who we want them to be, and you can't do that.
right.
You can have that insofar as I want them to be kind and I want them to be disciplined and I want them to be able to take care of themselves when they grow up, but let this little being be who they are. Is that a challenge for you in your teaching sometimes? Like working really hard on like creating something that you know is going to work for a certain student and them just being like, that's not me.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think, something really shifted with teaching in particular um and young actors in particular, because I've been like sort of like at the forefront of it, if you will, like right in the line of fire of this whole thing for a while, but taught through COVID and like had to shift to COVID teaching and like what that looked like. And one of the things that eh, it's not meant to be sort of I don't want to get depressing, but it is sort of eye opening, and nonetheless is sort of the realities of where younger people are currently, and that's not just like it's not a blanket statement about them, but a good example is one of the things I ask them is I have them get out their phones on day one, and I ask them to show me their screen time. And I'd say I've done this to probably 3,000 people or so that are all like somewhere between 24 and 16, something in that ballpark. And the average is around 5 hours a day, give or take. But the shortest I've heard has been like an hour and 45. But I've heard like 17, 18,
Ooh.
16, 17, 18, right? But I'd say around 4 or 5 hours. So if you just start doing the math on that, if that's been their average for 6 years, it's like every 7 days, one full day is gone. And then in 6 weeks, one full week. And then in a year, 2 months. And then in 6 years, it's 2 years.
Wow. I never thought about it that way.
And so then when you start kind of thinking like, this is just this wave of people that are coming in, and then you add COVID to that equation, you add this other thing where like 14, 15, 16 years old, suddenly the most pivotal moment of socializing in your entire life where you like are really independently choosing your social situation. Because you and I don't remember much about high school except the social part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So then all of a sudden you take that away from young people and say, you're not going to get to do that. And then we're going to add this other thing of phones. And then all of a sudden, for teachers during that time, we were told straight up, like, whatever it takes, no child left behind, get them to the finish line. And like you'd be like, but they don't, some of them don't belong at the finish line yet. Like
Yeah.
some of them shouldn't be at the finish line. Like
They're
they
not fully
definitely
cooked.
they didn't finish. Like, and now you're 20 and you're looking around and you're going, I'm actually like 16.
Mm.
I'm
Mhm.
actually like 17. So in a very short period of time, we've
This is
had,
like
I
really
know,
getting me.
I know, it's crazy, I know, but it is a really big important thing because we've had to adjust so much to where they actually are. And so material that maybe you could do a while ago, 5, 6 years ago, you can't do. Um, Subjects they're just not ready to hear yet. We need people to be pushing back.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is I keep telling them, I was like, I'll be a teacher that still pushes back, but I need you to understand that pushback is kind of what you need because you can't really deny that you're behind.
When it comes to teaching, though, like whatever level you are putting out, there does have to be a tiny bit of pushback in
Right.
order to get them to the next level,
To get
right?
to the next level. And you'd think so. But again, like something changed where a
Mm.
lot of them kind of saw that they could kind of, I keep making the the joke, but it's not really a joke, is that like I've never seen a lot of people, many people at all, bitch their way to the top of success, but I've seen a
Mhm.
lot of people in the last few years bitch their way to the top of school
Wow.
and like kind of bitch their way to they complain their way to the end. But then it's like,
Hmm.
but in real life, I haven't really seen that work.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't really work in the real world. And you're kind of being told that it does because you can just sort of like complain your way out of something or complain your way to the
Hmm.
next thing. That's just not how it works.
Yeah, especially these days. There are, there's always a handful of people who are like that, but it stops at a
It
certain point.
stops.
They'll
It
get to a
stops
certain
at
point where people
yeah,
are like, nah, I don't want to work with
that's
that
enough.
person.
I've had enough of that. Like and that's real. Like it does get to a point where they start going like, all right, I've had enough, and
Hmm.
you know what I mean. And the world will take notice at some point because the world's going to be like, I know it's not worth it.
Yeah, also, I mean, when it comes to like these industries too, there will be these people who are insanely, insanely talented at whatever it is they do. And all of us, 5 years in, you're like, wait, I haven't heard from them for a while. And you wonder why. And it's like, well, they could be an actor who started producing, or they could be a writer who decided to go off and be, to volunteer their time somewhere. But probably they were difficult and no one wanted to work with them
Yeah,
anymore.
people just stop being interested in dealing with them anymore, you know, and
Yeah.
unless they're in charge of their whole space and then they're in charge of everything. But even I think even at some point, even in that regard, I think at some point, if you become so difficult to deal with,
Hmm.
um, eventually people are like, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, not quickly enough, but thankfully, therapy is becoming a thing, and we are becoming a very therapized community of people. And one of the things that we're learning is boundaries, and you don't have to put up with that nonsense. It's just,
Yeah, it's funny because I also bring that up a lot. Like I bring up that particular phrase. Like I was recently trying to challenge some younger people to sort of take on leadership and take on some bigger roles. And they didn't have any interest. And I was like, but it's like there for the taking. Why are you not interested? And they're like, well, I have boundaries. And my first thought was like, but you haven't done enough in your life yet to set up these boundaries. Like, my first pushback was it wasn't so much about boundaries as it was like you're stopping yourself from being excellent because
mhm.
of like sort of a work life balance, right? And I think about that differently. Like, I think that there's a difference between like, I have a boundary against that person because that person makes me crazy, or that person is very volatile, or that person like is offensive to me. Like that's a very different boundary, I think, that I think is appropriate than just
Hmm.
like, hey, we're going to be putting in a lot of hours today.
Yeah, I think there's also sometimes people think, well, I have a full on boundary when it comes to anything that makes me feel uncomfortable or scared. And it's
Right.
like, well, yes, but maybe when it comes to something you really want, you're uncomfortable because you don't think you can do it and not
Right.
because it's actually going to hurt you.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think especially with what we choose to do, I think a lot of young actors or young artists are having to figure out that thing of like, um, sort of that definition, going back to the definition of insanity, is like so much of what we do is for free.
Yeah.
And especially the rigor part, the discipline part, and the extra part that separate you are free. And the get up and go and the submit yourself and make your own thing and write your own stuff and stay late and paint, like that's discipline and rigor. And I think that where there's been a real imbalance is, I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to do that. And it's like, I'm not sure that you actually want to be excellent at something then, because we
Yeah.
are choosing a you're choosing this isn't choosing you. Like,
Exactly. That is something that I find is becoming more and more prevalent with people in this world, which really, really bothers me, especially when you think of how easy it is to do some of that stuff. I mean,
yeah.
when I was first submitting myself, it was the late 90s and I was in New York and I would have to get backstage and read through
Right.
backstage and I would have to do a cover letter with my resume and headshot, put them in an envelope, either drop it off at the office or send it in the mail and hope to God someone saw it. And
Yep.
now you just like click a button.
Click a button. I keep telling them about I realize so many of my young actors. I just taught a class, this auditioning technique, the class recently, and I did like a live audition, and they were like, "This is the first time I've ever been in a room and auditioned for somebody." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so crazy!" And they were like 21, 22 years old.
Yeah, I guess with the timing, I guess, I mean, one of the shows that I was just on, we had one of our series regulars is a young man who was right out of Juilliard. This was his first thing that he'd ever done, and he had never auditioned in front of anybody before he did it, like, on Zoom.
Incredible,
And I was
insane.
like, I
It's
love
insane.
you and you are amazing, but don't get used to this. This is not
Yeah.
how it goes.
But also just like how wild is that? Like that one job, boom, done. But then but just the concept of like trying to tell people like what you just said, like putting your things on, like doing two or three a day sometimes and driving all over town and
Yeah.
like I'm like, you guys, this got a lot easier. It's already gotten a lot easier. Now the the negative side of that is that like, maybe we were competing against a few hundred, now we're competing against 7,000.
Hmm.
And it's a much more like, hi, my name is hi, my name is hi, my name is, you know what I
Right.
mean? And we can just, pleasantries are gone. Like simple pleasantries of like, hi, I'm gonna meet Adam, he's gonna do the scene, and I'm actually gonna watch it till the end is gone.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
there's no
which is
denying
really,
that.
it's very, that part of it. I mean, I personally don't mind oh, I get to just sit down in front of, a screen and do this. I know
Right.
100% I'm an actor who's better in the room. So, like, that
Absolutely.
is always so, in the forefront of my mind. It's like, yeah, this is definitely going to be like an easier day for me, but it probably won't get me the job because I'm much better in the room.
Well, I think that's because we were trained a lot more about like, um how to going in a room. We were
Yes.
trained a lot more about like making a job interview impression, right?
Hmm.
And so I totally with you on that, because I know that I'm better in the room, but my God, the ability to not to have to not do with it anymore, I'm like, I'm fine with that. I don't mind not driving and parking
Oh.
and all that nonsense that went along with it all.
They will never know. They will never know the busy pilot season. They will never know already have two auditions today and oh, they just slid another one in the middle and I have to have essentially 30 pages of monologue like memorized and then tomorrow just gotta let it all go and do it again.
I always have this funny one where I went in for Bones, the TV show, like a bunch of times. Like I got called back over like whatever the 12 years that the show was on.
Uh-huh.
I went to the producers something like 20 something times. And sometimes like multiple times for multiple episodes, like the same episode, right? But they used to not let actors park at Fox, and they used to make you park at like the Century Mall, and you'd
And walk,
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 and the
walk.
distance I did the distance was 1 mile, exactly almost 1 mile from the parking lot to where the casting office was. And so you start doing the math, and you start realizing like I think I walked like 50 miles for Bones, and like and I never got on it. Like I was like,
There's a shuttle, and I knew
yeah,
where the shuttle was,
and
and
that
I
makes
was
a
not supposed
difference.
to be getting on the shuttle. It
Yeah,
wasn't for me, but I would just get in the line and be like,
so like
yeah, because otherwise you're
it's
like
ridiculous.
15 minutes in the blazing sun, not a tree in sight to give you
No,
shade, and you're all sweaty by the time you
sweaty,
get
yeah,
there. It's just
crazy.
like,
Such a different thing that like so many people don't know, will never know. Like
yeah,
anybody under the age of like 25,
yeah,
24, like
yeah. It's amazing. Tell me about what is your favorite thing about performance yourself, of being an actor?
it's weird. I've always really enjoyed comedy and improv. I've always just enjoyed that like part of it, like kind of like whenever you're working with a writer that trusts you to and as a director and writer I do the same thing, like sort of trusts your take of it and trusts like does it feel right coming out of your mouth this way, how would you want to say it, like I can't get enough of that. Like I love that combo like the best, whether it's drama or comedy in that regard. I really, as I've gotten older, there's a thing that like I've always played a lot of like broken or strange people, but I'm not broken. I don't feel like I'm a broken person. I feel like, but I play a lot of them. I think people see me and think he looks like he is or something. Um, I feel like I've gotten stronger, faster, better as I've gotten older.
Hmm.
It goes quicker. I learn. I'm fat. I can get to the places quicker. I don't need to do a lot of stuff. It slows.
Definitely.
It's slowed down. It makes sense. I can jump into a million emotions really quickly now. And I always felt like I was good at that, but I didn't feel like I had like the gears like now that I do. So I think, playing some of those like really kind of like those sort of broken people, but they have a sense of humor.
Hmm.
Um, I really enjoy those things. And for me, like that ability to the baseline of it is just to entertain people. I can't I that's that's the drug addict in us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's good casting as well. Like, if you have someone super weird or someone who's like the character is super unlikable, you don't want to cast someone
Be
who's always that is also that way, because then it's just
For
like,
sure.
ugh.
For sure, for sure. I think that's a big one, you know what I mean? Like I just over the years like you have that phrase typecasting, like my typecasting hasn't really changed. I've just gotten older.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Hmm.
like the degenerates and punk rock and roll guys and guys that do drugs and guys that do shady shit or guys that are divorced or breaking up with their girlfriends and stuff. But like I've been married for almost 20 and I've been with my wife for 20 years. Like I'm not those things. And
Right.
I've ran a theater company for almost 20 years. Like we're pretty solid. I'm a teacher. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think that's a big part of it is like we want to be able to be like he looks and can be believable, but when it's over, like he could just
Yeah.
be a person and we can talk to him. I've never
Yeah.
liked the like be a methody
No,
go be,
I actually tried that. I tried super hard in college to be, Daniel Day-Lewis was one of my probably my favorite at the time. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna. And then I, realized after like about a year that how absolutely obnoxious it was. And I was like, don't want to be
yeah.
obnoxious.
I think that there's like a I always see like when it comes to like method stuff, I'm like I like it like light.
Hmm.
like method light. Like
Method
the idea
light.
like you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
like the idea of like I always use the example of like none of us I think wake up in the morning and go, I really want to be like a garbage man. But
Except
if you
except my
told
son. Except
right, exactly, except little kids. But like as an adult, we're not like striving. This isn't a knock on anyone that's a garbage man. But if you told you or me that we were going to be playing a garbage man or garbage woman, whatever, in a movie, and they wanted to take us on a route, we'd be like all in.
It's so funny you say that because there are so many things. I'm like, jump out of plane? No, thank you. Bungee jump? No, thank you. But if I had to do it for a role, I'd be like first
Yeah.
in line, I'd be like, let's do this. Let's get
How
it
does it
done.
all work? What button does what?
Yeah.
Where's the nastiest shit that they bury
Yep.
things at? Like, what's the grossest thing you've ever seen?
Absolutely. Can I get in here while you're actually No, get out. Okay.
Yeah, so
Um
it's like light. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
they brought this. I was on this show, Goliath, and they I played this like
Great show. I love that show.
I played this like this like embalmer
Hmm.
at a morgue. And by the time I booked it and got it, it was and shooting was like it was like less than a day. So it wasn't like I had a lot of time to like figure out what embalming does or anything like that, right? You know, you take a swing. They wanted a guy to look like a hipster embalmer, and then they got me. And so I had this scene was with Billy Thornton, like the main character. And so I'm sitting there thinking like this would be cool. We're gonna just be with him all day, and we were there for all day. And the set was beautiful, like super detailed, and it was really cool embalming thing and dead body on the table and everything. And then at one point they were like, "Hey, Adam, this is so and so. He's an actual embalmer." And I was like, "Say no more. I have so many questions now." And it
Wow.
was just cool because I was like, "Why do you do this?" And he's like, "Well, I'm socially a little weird." I was like, "Great." And he did that. Thank you. Like it was just little
Yeah.
things. And then I was like, "What's the grossest thing you've ever seen?" And he told me some wild stuff that I just had no idea. But I was like, "Keep more, more. Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more." Because I think we are like sponges for that stuff.
Oh my God. Listen, I when I was on Castle, I had one episode where I had to be she was someone who like knew about like everything, you know, so she could like decode, she could do this, she could do that. I was like, I have an actual degree in theater, which is basically
Yeah.
just a degree in personality. So,
Yeah.
and I went to this party where I met this guy who was a sharpshooter for the military.
Wow.
And we end up in the middle of this room, just people walking around us on the ground with him showing me how I would lie down and I
And
was
you're
like,
like,
this is
I'll take,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like absolutely. It's so much fun. Yeah.
That's where I say like light. I think we're like
Light.
method light. It's like
Hmm.
just we want to try it. Like I want to see it, and I don't want to look dumb. I definitely don't want to look
Exactly.
dumb.
Yeah,
Like
I don't want someone to be like, well, that's not how we would lie down. That's not how we would. But I also don't want to go and do like a 2 week course in it.
no, I think it would all depend. Like I played a bartender not too long ago, and like I'm not a bartender, but I definitely look like a bartender. And it was like at this brewery, and I was having to like pour beers, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I don't know how to do this. Like I'm not like a keg beer guy. I don't.
Right.
And the bartender that was actually there, he's like, let me show you. And I was like, oh, cool. I was like, so this, and I was like, now I'm here for like practicing and getting it, and then
Right.
now I'm obsessed. And so like
Yeah,
light.
and you don't want to be that one part of the scene where someone's looking at it and being like, that's not how it's
That's not how
done.
it's done. I don't want to ever be that. No, no, no. And I don't like, I remember the very first time I was ever in a movie. I'm so glad I got to be in a really, I mean, I've been in plenty of bad movies, but I was so happy that this movie was so bad that it like never even got finished. But I remember they had me smoking, and I was so bad at smoking because I didn't know how to smoke. But my character clearly was like tough and smoking. And I remember watching a playback and being like, "Oh my God, this is the worst thing." I was, you know, it's like I this, like had no idea what I was doing. And so I told them, I was like, "We have to reshoot that." And then for the next like 2 weeks, I just walked around with a cigarette in my hand. I just walked everywhere, and I learned how to smoke a cigarette because I was like, never ever will I be seen on camera looking that bad doing that ever again.
Just every smoke in the world looking at you going,
Oh,
is he okay?
it's so embarrassing. And now I make it a point anytime I see like a student do it bad, I'm like, don't do that. Just either put it out, don't use it, or walk around with it for a long time because it
Absolutely. And you know, and it's like there are certain things too, you know, the prop always be nice to the props guys. They're your best
yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, they'll always try to make it easy for you. Like they'll give you like a box with nothing in it. Tell them to put something in the box. There's
Please.
nothing worse than watching someone carry an empty box. Just
Coffee, empty
yeah,
coffee. Like it's hot coffee and they're just walking, they're opening
yeah,
doors
yeah,
with it.
exactly. Now tell me about Loft.
Oh, Loft. You know, I'd say besides, you know, the personal family things like my daughter and my wife, and um, I'd say it's probably the thing I'm most proud of.
Mm.
Um, it started when I was 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
Um, a group of us got together, and we just young. All of us were young and hungry, and I think all of us were pretty talented, and it was a talented group of people. And there was only a handful of us, and we got this amazing opportunity to be in a space downtown in the arts district before gentrification even began, in a really really bad time. But it was this really cool big old butter factory loft space, and it had been turned into a theater a long time ago, but very theater light. It was just a big room. um, and and they needed the people that had the space, just really wanted someone to stay there and be able to like watch over it, and in
Ah,
return could have access to the space. um, and so one of our members did, and there was just a few of us that started it, and then we would just get down there and we would just work, and we would just like workshop and try new things. And eventually, after about like 8 or 9 months of us trying to figure out what are we doing down here, I proposed an idea of a show, like a puppet musical that I wrote, and then we put it up, and it just kind of, then it was like next thing and next thing, and we weren't really responsible for money at that point, because it was kind of, the deal was sort of like just live there, and it was a
yeah.
kind of an amazing situation. But then, as you know, we started generating more shows. We do another show. Eventually, they were kind of like, "We're going to start charging you month your rent." And then, by the then we were down there for almost 10 years, and so
Wow.
we really turned it into something very much bigger. Um, After I think about the first couple of years, I took over solely as like artistic director, and didn't really know what that meant. I'm not even sure if I still do to this day. Uh, but yeah, I think it really just became about like, I have a motor and an engine, and I'll be here. If you guys want to be here, let's put something on.
Nice.
And over the years, you get more structured, and you get more disciplined people around. You get smarter people around you, like Bree Pavey, um, and her husband Tor, like just smarter people. Sarah came on, and people that are just also just really good human beings.
Mhm.
It's all for free, so it's always been for free. It's always been for no money.
For the love of the art.
Yeah, and then it's almost 20 years now, which is wild,
It's amazing. That's,
crazy.
I
I mean,
mean, that's like, as far as I'm concerned, anyone who really, really loves the craft, like that's the dream.
yeah, we
You're
really
living
got,
it.
yeah, we really got to like do a lot, and we've done a lot, and we've opened 4 locations, four
Mm,
spaces. We were downtown, then we were in Sherman Oaks, and then we have 2 in North Hollywood.
wow.
Um, Yeah, and we really did, like, we're really just close to like about 100 shows that we've done, 100 plays. A lot of them have been original or premieres in LA, and I'm very proud of that in particular. I think that that's something that I think is really exciting. A lot of people have um, become, writers that got the right, or write a show, or directors that never directed, and people that maybe don't even necessarily haven't really had success or been able to be like leads of things, have got an
Hmm.
opportunity to be leads of things there. Um, it
It's a gift for so many people. I had a theater company for like a drop in time in New York. It's just, so I know how hard it is to keep it going.
Yeah,
And it was because I was so sick and tired. It's like, I don't want to, I mean, I definitely don't want to see the Tempest for the 20th time. I definitely don't want to be in the Tempest for what would probably be the
right.
third time in my life. Like, I want something new. Was all the new work. And
Yeah.
so what we would do primarily readings, stage readings,
Hmm.
because they're, cost efficient. And because to be a writer or a director, it's so difficult to get a resume. Like, where do you practice that?
Right.
You
Right.
know, it's so, and new work. There's so many new stories that need to be told, but it feels like the same old stuff again and again. I was just in New York, and there were maybe a couple of things I wanted to see. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time. But even if I'd had the time, I was like, I mean, it's all like a musical that's turned into a stage show, or a movie that's turned into, like it's
Hmm.
all the same stuff that I've already seen.
Totally.
So
It
those little theaters they're the gems.
They are, and honestly, I think that there's a lot to be said about. I think a lot of artists that are maybe actors who've maybe never written a play or never directed a play or even directed anything. I think there's a lot of them that actually could,
Hmm.
um, but don't. They're waiting for permission to do art, and I've just really always been like, get out of my fucking way. Get out of, like, kind of is like kind of been always my other way of that is like, I'm not asking for permission, I'm just going to do it, and I don't
Uh-huh.
really, who is telling me I can't?
Right.
Because I remember that happening when I got, when it was like everyone like was like, well, no, we want him to be the artistic director. And I remember calling my wife and being like, everybody wants me to do it, and I'm like, am I too young? I'm 22, 23 years old. And she was like, why, is there an age limit that I didn't know about? Is there like a, you have to be a certain age to do this? And I was like, no, you're totally right. Like, I think a lot of artists get in their own way
Yeah.
and prevent themselves from doing something because exactly like you said, like, where do you build that resume? And you start kind of going like, I don't need somebody's permission to put a play on. I
Right.
don't need somebody's blessing. I just need to be able to have a drive to do this myself. And if no one else will do it, I'll do it. Like, and that has carried me for a long time. And I think that that's
It's
big
one of the
on,
healthiest things you can do.
yeah.
It's one of the healthy, I mean, we're learning now that to be healthy, it's not just about, the whole self-care thing. One of the best things you can do for yourself is play.
Mhm.
Playing, whether it's with your partner or your kid or, joining some sort of group that allows you to play. It's one of the healthiest things you can do for yourself.
Yep. It's so true that I'm in this comedy band with my best friend, and if you ask me honestly, of all the things I've ever gotten to do in this whole wide world as a performer, if it was up to me, I would only do that for the rest of my life. I would only be do that. It would
How
be,
long
I
have you
would,
guys been doing it?
mm, like 11 years or something like that. We've done like, I don't know, 900 shows or something like that. But it is play at the maximum. It is just me and my best friend. It is our jokes, our songs, our humor, our style, our vibrato. It's the whole thing. It is so essential to be able to go back on anything that if like Loft goes away, if I never get to act again, if I don't get to be on TV ever again for whatever reason, whatever, like, but I could always do this. Like,
Hmm.
him and I can go stand in a street corner if we wanted to. Like, we could always keep performing this because this is our stuff and nobody else is doing what we're doing. No one else has this act.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think that ability to go play and then sort of not ask for permission, I think is really one of the things that prevents a lot of people from taking their art to another level,
Yeah.
assuming they have to wait for something. We just I just did a play that I wrote, and I remember some people being like, "But you're not a writer." And I remember the first time some people were like, "That's so rude." And I go, "I mean, it is rude that someone would say that, but like at the same time, like, yes, I am, and shut up." Like,
Well,
also,
yeah, it's
like,
like, well, why
I
why
wrote
do
the
you say
play. Like,
that? Yeah,
why
I
do you say
actually
that?
wrote
Like,
something.
I
Yeah.
actually wrote something and we're doing it. So as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned, we are, but there is an element, I think, for people to be like, and again, like we were talking about this, I think a lot of artists will get sucked onto the negative. We'll hear
Yeah.
one person say that and then be like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not a writer.
Yeah. And there are so many people, like you said, it's all about me, I. So it's the accolades they want. So they're so scared to hear anything that's negative or that's criticism that might, hurt their feelings.
Mhm.
And I mean, like that, if you're going to get your feelings hurt, you should not be in this industry.
No, you really shouldn't. And you really, really shouldn't. And it's not just because it's unhealthy, but it's not fair. I mean, we know that. This business
Hmm.
isn't fair. This industry is not fair. How it's done is not fair. Some of the most talented people in the entire world, some of the best actors in the entire world that I've ever seen in my entire life are not famous actors.
Absolutely.
Um, and and then some people I know that have had wild successes are okay actors. And
Hmm.
I think a long time ago though, like I think the hardest part for a lot of people is when it comes down to it is just jealousy. I always tell people that
Yeah.
watch out for it, you know.
Yeah.
It's a thing that will rear its ugly head at a lot of people, and it'll
And
also,
that's when you need boundaries.
yes, because it'll eat you alive, and it'll I watch that kind of be like the death of artists, is that they start to get jealous. Like if someone has success, I just, awesome, good for them. Like,
Well, yeah, because it's not yours. It has nothing to do with you. Like, just be, if you know how hard it is to be an artist, a successful artist, and you see someone you care about doing it, you
great,
should only ever be happy for them and feel
that's it.
inspired by it
Exactly.
and
You
know
get
it's
inspired.
possible.
Get inspired. Don't get angry. Don't get envious. Don't get jealous. Like find a different choice, because I promise you that jealousy will end up sending you away
Yeah.
and doing something else, because you'll
Yeah.
do that. You'll do the thing I call like your check engine light, and all of a sudden you'll be like, I feel like shit all the time. And then you check your engine light and you realize it's because you're an actor, and you're like, oh no, it's not because you're an actor, it's because you're jealous. It's because you're angry, you're bitter, you know what I mean?
Because you're centering yourself in something that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
When you center yourself in other people's stuff, no good is going to come from it because it's not yours.
Yes, exactly.
So
And
it
so it can be
can't feel good.
very hard for people to get around that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for this time. This has been a lovely conversation.
Yeah, this is great. It was like, you said you're like in a therapy.
Yeah.
It's like artist on artist therapy. It's like, oh, that's nice to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's one thing, I'm going to leave us with this thought. If there was one thing that you were going to tell someone, and this I think is extra valuable from you being a teacher, who wants to be in the arts, in theatre arts, what would you tell them?
You will have to keep choosing this.
Uh-huh.
And you have to remember that. You have to keep choosing this. And the day you choose to not choose this, then you'll probably stop doing this.
Hmm. Yeah,
It doesn't
because it's
mean like
hard.
one single day can't go by that you're like, I'm going to take a break for a day. That's not what I'm talking about. That's the boundaries. But I'm
Yeah.
talking about like, just you have to keep choosing it. You could have like a really successful show that you get on, and then it's over at some point.
Yeah.
And then you still have to keep choosing it. And I think people don't realize that even when they see really famous people, they're still having to choose this. They're still having to keep doing this and make
Hmm.
this a choice. Um, and so you can't lose sight of that's a big part of this, that
Yeah.
it can't just come from the like, I love the attention.
Right.
Like you're gonna have to then choose to seek out the attention, and
Yeah,
that's a different mindset, big one.
absolutely. Oh, thank you so much for this time,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Adam Chambers, give
Thank
him a round
you.
of applause. Thanks for being with us, everybody. Hope you enjoyed our conversation. Take care of each other. Bye.